I just want to hear him cry. That was all I was thinking, is I just want to hear his voice, because then I'll know he's okay if he's crying. And I was just like, okay, he cried, everything's fine. We're going to get through it, everything's going to be just fine. And then it wasn't.
I mean, you hear the stories about people having babies, and you have the bag packed and everybody's all excited to go. And for us, it was, I ran home, got a garbage bag, threw a bunch of stuff in it. She left in an ambulance. I wasn't allowed to go with her. I've always been, growing up, been kind of a God-fearing guy. I went to church, I did all those kind of things. So the whole way in to the hospital, you're kind of like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Basically, you can't, as the father, you have to wait till she's prepped. You can't go into the room, right? So you have to pretty much just sit there, and they say, oh, it's 10 minutes, but really it feels like 3 months before you get into that room.
The NICU was very difficult for me because I had preeclampsia and almost died. So they gave me a lot of medication, and I actually wasn't allowed to see my child for 24 hours. So being a mom, that was just the most horrible thing ever. Jerome was able to take a bunch of videos on his phone for me, so all my family would meet him one at a time, and he'd film it for me and then bring it up so I could see those moments, because I was missing this amazing time where everyone got to meet my child, and I hadn't even seen him yet.
The first time we went down there together, where she was able to hold him, although it was a fantastic, fantastic moment, that's when it really hit me that, oh my God, what's going on here? Because you have to move all the cables aside, you have to move all the wires aside, all the tubing, and it all has to stay connected. And the weirdest part of it is, like she said, you don't have that, oh, he's so small. It just doesn't click that way. He's a baby and he's right there, and I'm playing with him, and we have some video where, I touch his face and his whole face encompasses my thumb, and you don't even think about it until after. And then you see the pictures and the videos and you're like, wow, he really was tiny.
Grayson was born 6 weeks early at 34 weeks, which to anyone who knows the NICU, 34 weeks sounds great. They have wonderful outcomes most of the time. Babies can survive as early as 24, sometimes even 23 weeks. So we really never expected what happened with Grayson to happen. He was severely growth restricted. He looked like a perfect little mini baby, and he was awesome, but his intestines really just did not tolerate when we tried to start feeding him.
And then one thing in the NICU is that you have to go in at scheduled times. Like, there's only certain times, like every 3 hours or every 4 hours, where you get to, change your child's diaper, hold your baby, try to breastfeed, bond, and then they put the baby back because they want it to rest and get better. And being in the NICU for the first time, it was very hard and frustrating because we just wanted to hold him and be with him, and I just was like, I'm his mom, he needs me. What do you mean I can't hold him? So that was very difficult, but now we completely understand and it makes perfect sense.
The last time that I had done an exam on him and looked at him, fed him, was 6 p.m. and taking care of him for as many days as I did up until that point, I had a pretty good read on his personality. I knew that things did not seem like the norm for him. So having said that, I went home for the night, kind of worried all night about him, was back the next morning, and when I got there, they told me that they had just taken Grayson over to Children's Hospital and that he was going into emergency surgery. They put in an IV, did antibiotics, got x-rays, did all sorts of tests trying to sort of help him, and it definitely, he got all the attention in the house all night long, but it ended up being that they needed to try and do surgery. So that morning he went over to Children's, and I think that once he got into surgery, that was all they could do.
I only held him once, and I was actually, I think like I spoke about earlier, the wire and the tubing, it scared me about how fragile he was, and I didn't want to hurt him, and I figured mom is best, so I only held him one time. she held him every other time because I just thought that that would be best. That's how he's going to get his nurture. That's how he's going to get better. Had I known what was going to happen, I probably still would have went the same route because I know that it was better for her and it was better for him. But that's a pretty tough part of it, is looking back and almost not remembering holding him, you know.
I actually had the nurse practitioner come up to me while I was waiting to get a report and say, his parents said thank you for everything, and they were actually concerned that you would be so upset because you were back in the morning, which of course I was so upset, but it's just like Jerome and Laurel to be worrying about how I would be feeling in that situation, not just thinking about what they're going through.
I don't remember exactly when, but she just loved Grayson from the very first moment and was just so connected with him. You know, NICU nurses, they don't just take care of the babies, they take care of the families. And it's such a high stress situation that they have to just be such amazing people to be able to do that.
Obviously she can't be there 24/7, right? So she would make sure that the people that she wanted to watch the baby, that watched Grayson, would be there. And she made us comfortable the whole time, the whole way through, even through the hard part at the end, you know, is the people that took care of him, especially her, were phenomenal. And, you know, from start to finish, she was just connected with us, with the whole thing, with us, with the baby, with our families. Like, everybody knew Stacy, and like, that was the best part. You know, it's, even with the tragedy of everything, there's always the positive of us having gotten to know her.
Grayson's funeral was something that it was never an option not to go to. It's probably one of the hardest things that I have ever done in my career. And it didn't even involve, you know, being at work, but work doesn't end when work ends. So the group of people that took care of him was small, but I think everyone that took care of him loved him and loved his parents and kind of wanted to be there for them.
They just showed up at his funeral, and who does that? You know, I understand you're in the medical field, you're taking care of people and you get close with them and stuff, but you would never expect something like that. And they all showed up, and that was such a big deal to me. It actually helped me get through the funeral.
And in the middle of the speech, he says, "These are the people that fought to save my son." And then everyone clapped for us.
These are the people from Veterans Row Children's Hospital that did everything they could with all their heart and soul to save my son. And I just wanted everyone to see them and see that there are good people in this world. And they will forever be part of our family. And we thank you very much.
And that was probably the hardest thing, like the most touching moment of my career, but probably the hardest moment of my career, the single one.
When I said it, I didn't mean it to come out as like, you know, this big congratulations, hey, thanks kind of thing. Everybody just stood and applauded for them, which was awesome. That was such a strong moment in the memorial, and I totally wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to thank them all for coming. When I saw them there, it was just awesome, you know, and for everything that they did.
To see all these nurses and doctors from the hospital there, it made us feel so good because we went through so much, and only a few of our friends got to meet Grayson, but here were all these people who shared in his life with us, and they were there. And for me, that meant so much that these people who actually got to know him took the time to show up for us.
Having the relationship that I do with Jerome and Laurel, I think, is definitely helpful for all of us. It helped us in the early weeks and days kind of just to talk about him and know that we all knew him and we all miss him. But definitely, I think staying in touch with them now is one of the most special relationships I have coming out of the NICU. On Christmas, when they found out that they were pregnant again with Blake, Jerome sent me a text message and said, don't say anything because we haven't told our families yet, and then he sent me a picture of the pregnancy, the positive pregnancy test. So not to throw them under the bus on that, but that was pretty cool that, you know, I was one of the first people that they thought to tell. I think that it's a really special relationship.
Quite honestly, she was the first person we told. Although we have family impacted, right? And although we have, obviously, us impacted, but she was on the front line. Like, she was the one that was connected with him and us. And all these other people got to see Grayson, but nobody spent the time with him that we did and that she did. So I felt it was only right to tell her first.
Stacy was so supportive during our pregnancy with Blake. It was, as you can imagine, very difficult and terrifying for us. Every day we were worried all the time. And Stacy just supported us and supported us and supported us. And she, the day we were going in for our C-section, actually texted us jingling bells because she had her bells on because she was so excited.
First of all, I hear Jerome from behind the curtain. They have a drape set up when they're doing the surgery, so I can't see him, but I can hear him. When they said that Blake was out and it was a boy, 10 fingers, 10 toes, that sort of thing, I will never forget him just shrieking in delight. It was hilarious.
They called me over and I was in shock. I remember I kept saying oh, look how great he looks. He looks so awesome and he looks good. And the nurse that's standing behind him is like, yeah, he looks great. He's doing awesome. You know, he's a good size. And I was like, yeah, he's so great. And she's like, hello. And I'm looking at her and she had a mask on, so I could only see her eyes, you know, and she's like, hello. And she lifted her mask down and just showed her nose, you know, and I was like, oh.
And he goes, oh my God, and sort of just like jumped into my arms, which you'll see Jerome. It's a funny image.
Someone brings the baby around the curtain and it's Stacy. And I was like, she's here. And she's like, I crashed your delivery. And it was just such a beautiful thing and so special. And it like links them together. And I think it's beautiful that Blake will know Stacy growing up and know that this is the person who took care of his big brother.
Just as I'm signing the last paper to get my fourth baby in my assignment discharged and go home, the charge nurse comes frantically over to me and says, Stacy, that baby has to come down to the NICU. So turned out that Blake ended up having a little bit of trouble breathing. I think Jerome's anxiety it was off the chart when Blake was first admitted. Understandably, he just had terror in his eyes, and probably being back with the same monitors and the same beeps and the same equipment triggered a whole different level of, it was literally PTSD for them. And hopefully with me being there, it was a little more comforting, but they were scared.
And she supported me the whole time through that. Even before I got to see her, she was talking me down and calming me down and walking me through. And that kind of stuff has gone on since the moment we met her the first time.
She would text us, he's fine right now. And I actually was able to sleep, even though my child was in the NICU, because I knew he was with Stacy and I knew he was fine if he was with her. Even
when we weren't pregnant or we didn't have a baby yet, or we're in a panic, something's wrong, you know, oh my God, what does this mean? Stacy's our go-to person, right? We'd send her a text, she texts us back, calls us, talks to us. And that's the support structure she is to us. She, you know, she could move in here if she wanted to, you know, she's one of the family to us.
As you go through different experiences in the NICU, I think you grow with each one of them, especially the hard situations.
They put their heart out there even though they know there's a possibility that it's gonna break.
Maybe not as much of the emotion that we have, but she goes through the same emotions that the parents go through. And to do that and be able to keep doing that over and over and over, I don't know how she does it. I couldn't do what she does. There's no way. There's no way. I don't know how she handles it. She's just incredible.
You kind of just have to put yourself aside and focus on the people who are going through what they're going through and just be there as much as you can for them and realize that it's all about them. It's one of the hardest things you'll have to do, but, you know, you do have the strength to do it. It's just a matter of finding the strength. You know, you always carry a piece of whatever happens at work with you, especially the harder things that we come across.
Our son Blake is turning 1 on Tuesday, so we're having his first birthday party today, which for us is a really big deal because the fact that he made it to 1 is huge because we were so worried he was going to get necrotizing enterocolitis like his brother. And we just, you know, month after month, we're like, oh, he made it another month, he made it another month. So 1-year-old is just an incredible, emotional, happy day for us, and we're really happy that our friends and family are here to celebrate, and just they've been there to support us throughout.
It's so special to be a part of the happy times in Jerome and Laurel's life. And as time goes by, obviously your focus shifts because we've had so many more of those happy moments together, and they've had so many happy moments. But there's always going to be a little bit of memory of kind of where they started, how things were when we first met. And I always say babies like Grayson, like the tiniest people, give you the most perspective about what matters in life. So just being able to remember what hard times they went through, I think makes the happy times so much happier with them. I think from just knowing Grayson, my bond with Blake, and you know, I knew him basically before he was born. I knew him like when he was a little +sign on a pregnancy test. So I think that just remembering Grayson, knowing Blake from the very beginning kind of makes that bond so much stronger. Blake is my favorite. He's awesome. It's been such a joy watching him grow up, and he just started walking and he makes little funny sounds and he laughs, and everything he does is just magical. Not to sound cheesy, but like he's the cutest kid. Every picture that they send me, every story that they tell me, everything that he does is the cutest. He's a great kid.
Let me be your